Search is dying and AI has already taken over. If your brand isn't showing up inside answer engines like ChatGPT, you're already invisible. This is the AEO Show, the podcast that teaches you how to become the answer in the age of AI. Every episode breaks down what's working right now to get found in a zero-click world. Listen now and join the free forever community at aeo.co/free. Welcome back to the AEO Show. This is Kasim, here with my buddy Julian. Julian's the head of research at AEO.co, manages a 6-person team, has done nothing for the last year but try to determine how LLMs source their citations. We just ran a 3-day, very intensive certification boot camp for over 500 people. We just published the AEO Blueprint, which is now #1 in the world in internet marketing, marketing for small businesses, and web marketing.
That's good.
So congrats on being an international bestseller, dude. That's a really big deal.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk to you about something that's nuanced but important. And so if you're listening to this, this is going to get nerdy quick. It's going to get nerdy real quick. So I would anticipate this being one where we have fewer listeners, but the value is greater. I want to talk to you about voice schema. So real quick preface, and I'll do the preface because I'm the dumb one and I'll be able to explain it in simpler terms. Schema is the most important beginning tactic. I don't want to call it a tactic, best practice for AEO. Schema basically means that LLMs can see your site. And if they can't see your site, they're not going to cite you. So schema just makes your website visible. But there's as many schema markups as there are websites, right? Like it's very, very, very diverse. Perry Belcher taught us during the certification, because I didn't know this, I didn't think you did either, that voice schema is only on 0.03% of all websites, that 55% of people under the age of 25 only use voice or use voice predominantly, that something like 40 some odd percent of all people use voice to a substantive degree. And when LLMs are spoken to in voice, they respond in voice. Mm-hmm. And voice schema takes a page and tells the LLM effectively what to say. Like here's the voice snippet. Now, installing voice schema is not as easy as installing normal schema. Normal schema, number one, you can just prompt from your favorite LLM and say, hey, this is my site, this is my goal, this is my avatar, what's the schema? Gives you the schema, copy, paste, put it in the header tag of your CMS, you're done. But voice schema takes an added layer of complexity because you've gone to school on this. So can you teach us what that added layer of complexity is and why it might be a little confusing?
Yeah, well, exactly. I would like to start by trying to introduce the concept of schema markup for people that have. I'm pretty sure that they have heard about it, but like understanding it properly is kind of a tricky thing. Schema markup is the language that Yandex, Google, and other search engines developed a while ago to kind of agree on a common language that they will use to index information and really understand the word. I think that's kind of the right way to put it. It's a set of labels that you will put in your pages to signal, to inform, to create relationships on what the things are on the page to what the machines understand. So this is a really, really big deal. It has been ignored for a long time because it didn't lead to a huge ranking change or anything. So if traditional SEOs will put anything and it wouldn't propel them to position 1, well, they won't use it or consider it. But the bigger thing is that given a long enough timeline, crawlers and AI will understand your site content and everything, but the timeline is really long. Like your site has to be really important. It has to have a lot of traffic so that more crawling comes and happens on your site. So what the schema does is that it closes the gap on understanding. You will put yourself the labels that you want into the content that each of these pages contain. So you are saving energy, which is a really important thing to keep in mind. That's why structured content like tables, bullet points, and everything, it's shown to be effective for AI visibility because you are kind of giving AI the food, as Perry said it in the.
I love that he kept saying it's AEO food.
Yeah,
like all of this. Yeah, he does that, dude. He's such a brilliant person, but he's very good at making things accessible to people.
Yeah, so Schema does that. Schema gives understanding of a page. We think that if we put certain words, it will be understood, but machines don't work like that. They work on semantic relationships. So in order for you to better provide for that type of understanding, Schema helps like in many levels. You could put that your content is an article, and that will help a bit. You could need to put your authors there because it will tie everything together and it will help a little bit more.
When we talk about that, just a moment, Julian, because this is such a critical point, and I think it'll drive home what you said earlier about helping machines understand relationships. Talk about the same as tag, because you taught me about that, and I thought like, God, I can see why this is so important.
Yeah, exactly. The same as tag is just a property in which you connect the dots with outside sources. So if you are on an about page about well what you do, who you are, it's not enough to just put your description there. If you put your same as property and link back to your own profiles and third-party profiles and even podcast appearances and everything, it will like just complete the picture of who you are into one thing. So this is
Well,
what
that's important because you're not the only Julian Lopez in the world, I would imagine.
exactly.
So, like, if your name isn't Kasim Aslam, of which there are 2 others. Did you believe that, dude? There's a guy in the UK that writes about boxing, and there's a mayor in somewhere. But if you have a name like John Smith, you need to be able to tell dude, I had one of my best friends, rest in peace, Steve Sims. He was a world famous speaker. He'd been on the biggest stages in the world, but there were a couple of other Steve Sims. There was, like, a football player. I think there was, like, a serial killer. You know what I mean? And so you want the LLMs to know, hey, I'm Steve Sims, the speaker, not Steve Sims, the serial killer. And this same as tag kind of helps you build this web that gives them the confirmation that they would need in order to, and that's the making this more of a meta discussion. That's the strategy behind schema. So it's not just labeling content, it's also doing your best to strategically offer the machine's insight into the relationship between all of the content. And a
Yeah.
handful, it's the 80-20 rule, right? A handful of schema tags are going to be maybe the most that you use, but you can prompt a lot of the schema. So anyway, I interrupted you. Keep going. Forgive me.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, there's different levels to it, like basic labeling of the page, relationships within the website, different pages, how they relate to each other, what parts of the business, when we are talking about a person, when we are talking about a product, ratings and everything. That's kind of that level. But again, going back to the higher level, that's how you signal. Because if you look for your name and if you look for your name exactly on the knowledge graph for Google, if in an article you were mentioning by certain fact, and in another article you're mentioning by another fact, maybe you have 2 different careers or something, machines understand you as different people because
Mm.
there's no way to connect this person doing this to the person doing that. So there's a lot of gaps in machine knowledge. But what the same as property does is that it will just connect you to the social media, to this thing. You can even connect to the knowledge, to the entity that Google has. So this is a knowledge vault. I think I forget how it is. It's called a KGM ID, something like that. Like this is your entity inside Google. So if you are able to do that in your site, pull everything together, you will have much more better result for your brand because you will be understood at that specific person. That's called disambiguation. I think I always mess up that word, but nobody will even understand that
No, no,
very
you
okay.
nailed it.
But yeah,
Disambiguation. Yeah. It was ambiguous and now it's not. I'm with you, dude.
yeah,
Yeah. You
exactly.
prompted that well.
Exactly. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We are trying to help the AI, help machines understand what's happening on your side, and that's all of these different levels that I talk about. Now we can talk about the speakable schema, which is like a really really specific property that lends to actual like an action and a specific action. And this property, well, I haven't dug too deep into it as Perry, but what's interesting is that you are able to create that property in a page that you want to be speakable, that you want to talk to your user in a specific way. And what you do is you pretty much highlight the passages that you think are most important for that page. That will be the answer. Right now, we don't see that in action most of the time because we are still glued to the screen. But in the future, that will be default because all interfaces are going to default to voice. First, the wearables, we are not going to be hanging around with keyboards and mouses. So everything is going to be through voice first.
When you say you highlight, that's a metaphor, right? You're not the speakable schema lets you identify blocks of text that you think are most important.
Specific passages that I think the strategy there will be to highlight the answers for them. So you will
It's
go
almost, if you're doing it right, if you're creating AEO content right, it's the first block of text, right, on the page. It's like your answer, because it's answer first content.
Mhm.
And so you highlight the answer. And talk to me a little bit about the technical implementation there, Julian, because I remember you telling me like, hey, this isn't just the installation of schema markup in the header tag. It actually requires some CSS.
Exactly. That's how you highlight actually. For everyone that is not as familiar with schema, like you don't have to specifically put it in the content that it relates to. It's like a set of labels that live on top of your content that could be individual. So it doesn't have to be this is the person and live inside the image element or anything like that. It could live like on top of it and that's
Dude, I just
enough.
thought of the best analogy ever. You've been to a stage play, I imagine, or a musical.
Yeah.
You walk in, and before you take your seat, they hand you the program.
Uh-huh.
Schema markup's the program,
Uh,
right? Here are all the actors, here are all the
this is
sponsors, here's everything we want you to know. Here's the program. So sorry, keep going.
yeah. That's a great analogy. That this is what you are going to be seeing here.
Yeah, this is what you're gonna be seeing. This is the short version. And the AI is like, all right, great. I'm gonna take this program and I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna tell these guys how,
Exactly. Yeah. Now it knows what this is all about. It doesn't
because the
have to go
machines
through the
don't have
content.
the computing power to sit there and watch your whole damn show.
Exactly. That's why there's a crowd budget for talking about Google. And I even talk in the book about an answer budget. So they cannot go infinitely. They have
Right.
certain amount of tokens that they can just retrieve and they have to be really careful about what sources to pick. That's why if your content is optimized, you will be helping AI find the answers. So yeah, that's a topic for another day. But yeah, specifically, well, on schema, schema is a code that you add to your code. It has to live on the static HTML, which that means that we are when we create the most modern flashy sites, they tend to have a lot of functionalities, JavaScript and everything like that. But those functionalities and that content that is injected through those advanced codes and technologies, they are loaded after. So the first thing that you get is the HTML, the static HTML, whatever is loaded and set up first. That's get fits on first to the user or the bot. In the case of bots and crawlers on AI fetchers, that's the only thing that they see. So if you have content hidden on these functionalities and especially schema, it's invisible pretty much. It
But
doesn't
CSS
work
is
like that.
included in
Yeah,
HTML, right? CSS
CSS
is a
is
type of HTML. Okay.
yeah, CSS lives on parallel. So, but I wanted to just explain the different levels of things. That's why it's important that you have schema on your HTML, on your static HTML. The first thing that it loads, that's the thing that AI is able to get. It
Mm.
doesn't have the time to have everything load up. It will be bloated. It will be confusing. So they get only the static HTML. But for the speakable schema, you have to point out specifically what you want to be speakable. So in order to do that, you can generate the speakable schema and it will point you out to an CSS property. So if you know CSS, that's just another label that lives on whatever container that you have as text and that you get to select when it starts and when it ends. And you can add different properties, visual properties
I've
or
always thought that CSS in my mind was always visual. It was, here's, HTML is, this is what it's, and I realize CSS lives in HTML. It shows how little I know. But CSS was just to style it. This is the color, this is the font, but there's more to it now apparently where you can install the speakable schema in the CSS.
yeah, exactly. It's like another tag. It's like a target. It's like something that allows you to do more specific properties or selectors. So I think that's the functionality that they are using to get these voice assistants like Siri and this new Gemini thing to select what type of thing they can speak back to the user.
Mm.
So
It'll
this
be
is just
interesting because only 0.03% of sites have speakable schema. It'll be interesting once we reach some level of critical mass to see how compliant the AI engines are. For example, when we used to do SEO, there's a meta description on every page. And for a long time, Google would just take the meta description and display it. So you would Google something and all the search results would have the top 10. and underneath the site's name was the meta description. And once people really figured that out, they started to game the meta descriptions in really horrible ways. So Google went, you know what? Go fuck yourself. Maybe we'll use your meta description, but more often, we're going to use the snippet of content on your site that we think is most applicable. And meta description over time kind of became not really that important, at least not for SEO. And so I wonder with Speakable Schema right now, I feel like they need it because they lazy cognitive load, right? They're trying to not expel digital calories. But on a long enough timeline, because douchebags like you and me are teaching people how to do this, I think they're going to have to be like, all right, I see your Speakable Schema, but I don't trust you. So I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use this. Or maybe I'm not going to rank you at all. It'll be fun to see where they go with compliance requirements.
Exactly. Yeah. All of these things have to be run through tests and really see what the impact is. But the technology is like the schema is a thing that is bigger than ever. The quality of your schema is going to impact the quality of the answers that come from your site massively, your visibility and everything like that. Like that, we have this graphic that maybe we add to this podcast in which we analyzed a truckload of URLs coming from ChatGPT, Perplexity, and AI mode. And we have like an average of 85% of sites that have valid schema. And the rest of them are maybe errors on the schema. And there's only a small bit that don't have schema at all. So I
Dude, this
think,
is what's crazy is 85% of all citations had valid schema, but only 12% of websites have valid schema.
Mhm.
So 85% of all websites, and I misunderstood that graphic. When I was teaching, I thought red meant it didn't have schema, but you're saying it has schema with errors, and gray was no schema. So effectively, no websites with no schema get cited unless they're very important from a content perspective.
Yeah, that's what the data is saying.
And dude, you put together a schema guide. Perry said this on the cert. He goes, this is the best explanation and the simplest explanation of schema I've ever seen. Is that in the school community?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're listening, go to the school community, which is free forever. Download, if you're a little confused, that's okay. I'm a little confused, as you can tell. Go download Julian's schema explanation. And you know what we should do, Julian, is, and when I say we, I mean you, we should come up with a tutorial on schema installation specifically for voice schema, because the CSS specificity, that doesn't scare me off. That doesn't feel insurmountably hard. It's just nuanced. And it takes a little bit of strategy. But dude, you know what I've been doing more now since the cert is I went into Google's AI Studio. And if you share your screen and tell Google what you're trying to do, like, hey, I'm trying to install Speakable Schema, I'm in the back end of my WordPress site, it's good. It walks you through. It's like, great, this, and I haven't tried it with this specifically, but my expectation would be something like it tells you what snippet to use, what it think it's best, generates a schema. Yeah, it's exactly right. So that's worth doing too. We've got to hop. If you're listening, thank you. Join the community, AEO.co/free. You get the free community, the free book. Make sure to continue to tune in. We're publishing an episode every week. Julian is probably, as much as he doesn't like me saying this, the world authority in AEO at this point, much to his dismay, I imagine. And we're really cracking this code. We have a near 1,200 person community that you can join for free. We want to help you be the answer, which, by the way, I don't know if I told you, we got the trademark on that.
Amazing.
I know. So like, comment, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, do all that fun stuff, and we'll see you next episode. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to the AEO Show. Do you want to learn how your brand can become the answer for AI engines like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini? Join our free forever community at AEO.co/free and get access to research, tools, and live discussions that will keep you ahead of what's next. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review because the future of search is already changed.